And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 3, episode 20. And folks, there have not been that many repeat QCast guests along the way. And we have one today because this gentleman's team is playing incredibly well. And I really wanted to check in and talk a little bit about the North Park Vikings. Sean Smith, you joined me on May 4th, and you were selling a house, you were buying a house, you were like 2.5 weeks from accepting the job at North Park. In the 7 or 8 months since then, this has probably been a little bit of a whirlwind. But how are you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, it definitely has been a whirlwind. Excited to be here. Like I said, I'm in May, and family settled for the most part, and we're good to go. So, like I said, just before we went live, it feels like it was yesterday, but a lot has happened between May and now we're in February, starting tomorrow.
I would encourage everyone to check out that May 4th conversation with Sean of North Park. We got into his background and a lot of interesting things. We're going to keep today mostly about the current season and his team and his players. But I certainly encourage everyone to go back and check out that first conversation. But Sean, you're sitting at 16-4 and 9-2. You're tied for first place in the CCIW with Wheaton. When I don't know, when we talked back in May, if I would have told you you'd be sitting here on the last day of January, tied for first in the CCIW, I think you would have signed up for that, right?
Yeah, no question. Would have took that absolutely. So yeah, I'm really proud of our guys thus far and how hard they've played and how quickly they've come together. That's been the most exciting part about our group is putting their egos to the side, really just focusing on winning and being part of something special. So long way to go, right? Not satisfied by any means, but we're excited with where we're at. And like you said, if you would have told me that in May that we'd be in the mix right here, we would have signed up for that 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have played great, and you had that little hiccup where the stretch where you lost to St. Mary's in a great game. A particularly great player made a play. You had you lost, right, many. You dropped the home game to Carthage. I think that's when they were really, really rolling. I think they're
Yep.
still good, but they were really clicking back then. As you look at the season start to finish, though, I mean, 4 losses against a really good schedule. Pretty impressive performance through 20 games now. Just talk a little bit about kind of what this season's journey has been like for the Vikings.
Yeah, I think we talk as a staff often. It feels like we've had 3 seasons in one, right? Our first couple games, we're learning each other, right? And we're learning how our system works, and our staff is learning each other. We've never worked together before. Our players are learning us. We're learning them. So that was a season in and of itself, and had some early success there, which always helps, right? Bring it closer together when you're winning, and helps buy in no matter what. Is that guy when you win, guys are going to buy into what you're doing. So then we go on a little run, and maybe we think a little bit too highly of ourselves in some of the games. And St. Mary's came in here, credit to them, and did what they were supposed to do, right? They played really hard, and we played hard too. But Raheem Anthony was the best player on the floor that night, like he is multiple nights in our league or in our division. So credit to them. They had a great game plan, and we dropped that one. And that was kind of in the time where we were still, I think, we had figured out a lot about ourselves, and then it was almost like we have to refigure it out, right? About who we are. So we talked about hills and valleys, and we haven't had very many valleys, but that was a low point for us. And then Carthage came in here, and I feel like didn't miss a shot all night, which is not normal against us, but credit to them again. Steve had a great game plan. They played very, very confidently, hit it, and it was a great game. We scored a lot, they scored a lot, felt like an NBA game,
right?
And so credit to them. And then we just really had a come together moment of, what do we want to be about, right? We know what the preseason rankings were and what people thought about us coming into the year, and we could have got to 12, 13 wins and said, we've already surpassed people's expectations of us, right? The first thing we talked about our first meeting was nothing to lose, everything to prove, right? That's kind of been our team motto. And so we really came together and said, hey, fellas, we have a special opportunity here. We have a special group that doesn't happen all the time. And so let's not squander it by just being satisfied, by being content with where we're at. I mean, our guys have really bought into that. Practices have been as intense as they were at the beginning of the year. And the guys continue to compete. And the one thing I love about our guys is they don't really care who's on the front of the jersey against the other team. You know, we go play UW Milwaukee. They don't care about that, right? And or if we're going to play Illinois Wesleyan or Elmhurst or Loris, whoever it is, our guys just want to compete and fight every night, and they've really bought into that. And so you do that and you play really hard and you guard the basketball, you're gonna have a shot every night in any league. So kudos to our guys for really buying into what we've been trying to preach and what they've done thus far through 20 games.
One of the things I'm most impressed with is your ability to mesh the core that returned, because you had some really good players that were returning.
For sure.
And in a coaching transition, you never know, first of all, if everyone's going to come back. I mean, sometimes when there's a transition, some of the returners leave, but you had a really talented group come back, but then you added a talented group. I want to ask about the new guys in a second, in addition to the returners, but how were you able to bring returners and new guys together in what is seemingly a very cohesive North Park basketball team on the floor? How has that all played out?
Yeah, I think credit goes to the returners in a lot of ways, right? Jalen and Jordan Boyd are great players in their own right. Adam Boa has been a great role guy for North Park pretty much since he's got here, and Carl Polk's similar. So those are the four guys that, you know, have been getting minutes for North Park before we got here. And they have really done a great job of embracing the new style, the new teammates. And because it could be real easy, you know, they hired a coach they had no idea about, right? They could have transferred. They could have said, I'm not buying into you making us run and play up tempo for 40 minutes. It's not an easy system, but they've done a great job of buying into that, but then also embracing all these new guys. So I really credit our returners for a lot of our success, specifically Jalen and Jordan, who are our two captains, who have really just put their head down and worked their butts off all year. And then credit to our transfers too, who some coming from higher levels, some coming from other schools where they were leading scorers, right? Putting the ego to the side, right? Every single transfer we brought in, we talked about a family culture, a culture of it's about winning and not just about you. If you're here for stats, this is not the place for you. And all those guys, right, had success in their individually, right, at other places, and not so much team success. And so they really wanted to be part of something special. So those guys have come in and done everything they said they're going to do, right? Put their ego to the side, make the right basketball play. And I think that's one of the special things about our team. And every given night, especially on the offensive end, it's usually somebody else. And so very balanced scoring. And that's due to these guys putting their pride to the side, checking their pride at the door and saying, hey, we really want to win. And winning means all of us have a role to play. And sometimes that role changes from night to night.
Yeah, I just have been really impressed with that from the get-go this season, because a lot of times, again, when you have a team that's constructed like this, it looks all out of sorts in the early going, especially. But you guys really hit the ground running on the season. You know, you looked like a cohesive team in the opening weeks, at least externally. Maybe to you, you were seeing things you were nitpicking, but that's been really impressive, Coach. And let's talk a little bit about your style for a second. I want to get into the style of play. When I talked to you back on May 4th, I went back and watched a few of that in preparation for this. And I asked you about your style. And you said, we're going to play fast. We're going to maximize possessions. And we're going to take you out of your stuff offensively. And tell you what, the story checks out right there. So let me point to a couple things regarding your stats that jump out to me. First of all, what doesn't jump out to me is anything related to your field goal percentage or your opponent's field goal percentage. I don't think we'd associate your team with either, you know, you shoot at 50% and we're like, wow, or you hold opponents to 39%. Wow. But here's where things get really interesting. Your opponents have 285 assists on the season to 405 turnovers. That's an opponent assist to turnover ratio of 0.703. I think that's one of the more underrated stats in a box score is when you look at that stat, a measure of how much a team just completely disrupts an opponent. You average 20 forced turnovers a game. And most importantly, you said you were going to maximize possessions, and you have shot the ball 12 times more per game than your opponents.
Hmm.
Talk a little bit about the system that you're playing, and your ability to turn people over and your ability to have more possessions than the other guys. Talk through that a little bit if you would, Sean.
Yeah, I think, and you've probably heard this before. I think there's multiple ways to win basketball games. Some coaches want to slow the game down and just be more efficient than the other team. So scoring with less shots in the half court, but getting great looks every time. And then, playing pack line defense and really, really guarding hard for 40 minutes and just believing in that. And for us, we're a little different, right? Our whole philosophy, we talk about how many more shots are we getting than the other team. So the other philosophy that we kind of subscribe to right now is let's get more shots than the opponent. Then that doesn't mean we're taking dumb shots or bad shots, which we do at times and we'll continue to get better at. But we want to take more good shots than the opponent gets, right? And so offensively, we really work on making the extra pass, but also make or miss, we want to push it. And we want to get the best shot that we can get, whether that's at 25 seconds or if it's at 5 seconds. That doesn't really matter to us. We just want to make sure that we get more shots than you do and shots that we call good shots for us. And that's different for every player on our team. What's a good shot? What's a bad shot? And then defensively, right, we want to speed you up. There's in college basketball, players are really, really good. And players become even better when they're comfortable, right? So if I can just do what I do every night, that's not going to be good for the Vikings. But if we really take you out and make you play in a different way than you're used to, then we think we have a shot every night. So credit to our guys. They do a great job of just playing with relentless effort, right? You've probably watched some of our games. We're 40 minutes of in your face, riding you down the court, and we do a good job of anticipating and being in help side defense. And we spend a lot of time in practice talking about what we need to do defensively. And like you said, our numbers don't pop off, right? I think we give up 70 something points a game, and but the turnovers have been fun. I think I just saw this morning that Marquise Jackson leads the Division III in steals.
Wow.
And I'll have to check on that, but I was told that. So our guys have really bought into that. And that's not easy, right? To do that consistently for 20 games for 40 minutes. And that's kind of what we think was going to give us the best chance against, bigger teams like Illinois Wesleyan or teams like Wheaton that just have 5 guys that can really shoot it. And if you just sit in the half court against them, you're in trouble. And so we want to make it a fast paced game. And our guys have done a good job of buying into that and really executing the game plan and our vision that we've had since the minute we got here.
In the big win against Wheaton, it was the best example all season. Wheaton comes in averaging 11 turnovers a game. You turned them over 25 times. You shot the ball 19 more times from the field. 19. I mean, look, Sean, if you and I are both from the South Side, if I come to your neighborhood, Mount Greenwood, and we go play one-on-one up to 21 and you let me shoot 19 more times, I like my chances in that. I mean, what an amazing performance in making it hard on Wheaton to run their offense. Was that your best performance of the year? Did you think that home win against Wheaton?
Yeah, I think we executed very well. Another thing we talk about is offensive rebounds, and we send 4 to the glass and then make sure that we get. So that's another way to steal possessions. But our guys were locked in. We had a great game against them at King Arena earlier. I think it was only like 2 weeks before, and we just felt like at times we just let them dictate the pace. Right, I think we only had scored 25 points in the first half at Wheaton, and that's not us. That's not normal for us. And then we had a good second half, but Wheaton's a tough group, a old group, and Coach Schauer does an incredible job with them, and they're always well prepared. So they got us up there, and then our guys obviously are hungry. They knew what was on the line, and so I think that was our best performance to date, and that was kind of just again showed that if we do what we do, we can compete with anybody in the nation. Because I think Wheaton is as good as anybody we've played, and that speaking to that, when we turn you over 25 times and you lose by 3 and have a shot at the buzzer to tie it, that speaks to how good
Pretty
we
good.
how good Coach Schauer is getting his guys prepared through the ups and downs of that game. So that was an exciting game for us, a big win for our program and a big win for our team this year. But they don't give out trophies for beating Wheaton.
Another win that probably the one that got everyone's attention this season. It was really early in the conference season. That was the game at North Central when look, going in, you absolutely have a chance to win it. North Central was favored at that point. At that point, as we're looking at the standings and the preseason picture, everyone thinks North Central's a favorite. North Park could win the game. I can't remember what you won by. It felt like 40 or 50, and you just blew the Cardinals out. I mean, was that the game where you understood maybe how good you could be this year? Like, talk through that game in Naperville.
Yeah, that was fun. That game, everything clicked, right? And sometimes teams have that. Our pressure defense was incredible. We had great effort. We hit, I don't know, an absurd amount of shots from the outside, which always helps when you do that. Yeah, going into the game, obviously, we talked about how North Central was picked second and we were picked seventh. And this is a big time moment for us to kind of put ourselves on the map, right? And our guys bought into that. And yeah, it was just a night that everything clicked for us. And that was fun. I mean, it was exciting. That would probably be our second best performance to date. But yeah, that was credit to our guys for locking in on the game plan. And Matt and Ethan Hellwig are two of the best scorers in our league. And we did a great job on them. And really trying to contain them. I think they only hit like 4 or 5 threes as a team all night. I think they lead, if not first or second in our league, and made threes a game. So that was really our game plan going in there. Limit their 3-point shots, play with a lot of pace, and then let the cards fall where they do at the end of the day.
Then the game down in Bloomington against Illinois Wesleyan, thought, that's the kind of game where at that point in the season, you come down there as a little bit of a favorite. And you got to win a game like that. Like, you got to steal some on the road if you're going to do what you want to do this year. Titans had maybe a 4-point lead fairly late in that game. And a couple things, you forced a couple big turnovers, and boy, did you hit some big shots. I thought the Boyd brothers were particularly great. I thought that Jordan did some big things, hustle plays, things around the basket. And Jalen hit some monster threes in that game. Like, talk about the win over Illinois Wesleyan down in Bloomington.
Yeah, that was another fun and program, defining win for us as we, nope. You would probably know, but not very many people beat the Titans in the down in Bloomington. So that was fun for us to be able to go ahead and do that. Again, great team, played very, really hard, won a tight game all the way to the end. But yeah, Jordan was phenomenal in just his effort and his rebound. He twisted his ankle pretty early in that game and, fought through that to continue to play. And we needed him because of Illinois Wesleyan's big physicality, and they tried to bully you the whole game. And for multiple possessions, they did bully us. But Jordan did a great job of responding to that and kind of pushing back a little bit. And Jalen has hit big shots all year. I can't underestimate how important he's been to our program, and how fun it is for a senior, who's been a part of not so good teams here to kind of experience this on his way out. And he's making the most of it. No one works as hard as him in our program in a lot of different ways. He's in the gym all the time shooting. His shooting percentage from last year to this year is phenomenal. The growth that he has shown. And so we trust Jalen, at the end of games to hit big shots. And I think he had 2 or 3 in that game that I just thought after the game, wow, those were massive shots for us in those moments. And again, another game where our guys executed the game plan. But again, like every game in the CCIW, even when you execute your game plan, it's going to be a 5-point game with 5 to go, and just never know what's going to happen at the end.
Wanted to ask you about a few other guys. We've talked about the Boyds, Colden Van Landingham, really interesting player. Like, he's a big shot maker. It seems he's not afraid to take any shot. He's a great shooter. 17 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists a game. He's a 6'1" sophomore. Came from Earlham College as a transfer. Was he one of the guys that you got once you got the job? And like, how did everything end up for Colden ending up on the north side of Chicago with you?
Yeah, Cole was a recruit that we brought in once our staff got here. Cole had an incredible freshman year at Earlham. I think he averaged like 18 points, 5 assists as a freshman, which I don't care what league you're in. If you do that as a freshman,
Yeah,
you're a pretty good player. So we were excited when Cole actually played against North Park last year. And loved the city and loved the idea. Cole is from Richmond, where Earlham is, and has never really left. So kind of wanted to expand his wings, and we were happy to be the place he expanded them to. So Cole is another guy that's just going to continue to get better. He makes big shots. He hits big shots. In my opinion, he's our most natural scorer. He can do it at all three levels. He's really hard to guard. You can't lose him in transition.
right.
Because he'll make you pay. And then the thing I love about Cole is his effort on defense, right? Sometimes when you have a scorer, they're not as great, but I think he's as good of a two-way player as anybody in our league. He really guards. I think he's third on our team in steals because he just is in the right position. He takes multiple charges a game. But Cole is only going to get better. He's only a sophomore, right? So his ceiling is so high. And he's been one of our leaders too, like with his voice and just consistency, and not too high, not too low, just consistency, bringing every night. And so we're excited to coach Cole. And I've loved every minute of coaching him so far this year.
Another newcomer this year that has been an enormous impact, guys. Marquise Jackson, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He's a 6 foot senior guard from Division II Lewis. I don't know who your MVP is. I guess that's why you're a good team, is you've got about 3 or 4 guys that I could argue are your most valuable players, but there's no one more valuable than Marquise Jackson. How did you land Marquise? Because he's sure been a great player for you.
Yeah, Marquise was in the transfer portal, and we contacted him and just kind of explained to him what we were looking to do here. And Marquise, went from a junior college and then to Lewis and then to here. So Marquise at his junior college specifically played in a very similar system. He is a football player at heart, right? So his anticipation, like he's a defensive back, right? So he is really good at anticipating what you're going to do, gets his hands on a lot of balls often because he's quick and smart and strong. Marquise has been incredible for us, right? Offensively and defensively, but his biggest asset to us is the way his defense. Him and Shamar are usually the top 2 guys in our press. So the guy, we tell guys all the time, these are the 2 that are working the hardest because they're guarding the ball for, 30 or 35 minutes, however many minutes they play that night, and they're turning you and wearing the other guy out. So Marquise and Shamar have stepped up to that challenge every single night. And he is arguably one of the best defenders in our league. And I don't think anybody would argue that with the amount of steals and the anticipation that he has. But then offensively, he's really taken growth too, right? Of finishing well, but also, I think he's more of a pass first guy, or he's become more of a pass first guy for us because he does have so many weapons around us. But then there's nights like the Wheaton night where he can go drop 25 and 5 steals and 6 assists. So Marquise is a dynamic player for us. Sad we only get him for 1 year, but he's really, that was one of the things we talked about with him in our recruiting process. Come here and help lay a foundation, right? And Marquise has done that in every way through 20 games, and hopefully we have him, through a lot more as the season goes on. But he's really done a great job of being part of the group in this new era of North Park basketball, of laying the foundation so that other guys see, right, you can have success here, and this is what it looks like. This is the amount of work you have to do it, but it's there for the taking if you just want to put that work in.
You mentioned Shamar Pumphrey, who is another transfer, came from Aurora. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, another 6 foot guard. He's a junior. What's the background on how Shamar got from Aurora to North Park? Because he's been great for you too.
Yeah, another young man that was in the portal, just looking for a new home. Shamar, I had coached against Shamar for the last 3 years because Shamar was in Aurora and I was at Wisconsin Lutheran. I knew the kind of impact that Shamar could have, and specifically in our type of system, right? Shamar has really become our most vocal leader on the court in a lot of ways, which is incredible for us. His assisted turnover ratio is top 5 in the nation. He's incredible with the way he passes and draws two and dishes. But again, another guy that just works, right? And is more of a team guy than a me guy, which is what we talk about all the time. He is maybe one of our funniest guys on the team, right? Which from the outside you wouldn't know, but he makes some good jokes, and even in games and intense moments that calm me down, right? Where he's like, "Coach, we got this." And he's another guy in multiple games in conference this year where we just might be struggling offensively that we can go to and count on him to hit a big shot, to get a steal, to make the right play. So excited for Shamar and the growth that he's had, and glad that we get him back next year, as a senior. And so really excited for the growth, and another guy that's helping lay an incredible foundation for North Park basketball.
And then a final newcomer that I wanted to ask you about was Quillen Dixon I believe he's from Lincoln College. He's been really valuable for you this year. How did Quillen get to your program? And just talk a little bit about what he brings to your team.
Yeah, we got QD is what we call Quillen. We got a lot of Qs on our team, so
that's good. It's a good thing.
Good for you. Yeah, that's good. But QD he is a guy that we can bring off the bench. QD could start on many teams in this league because he's, again, him and Marquise could argue for the best defenders in our league. QD can guard 1 through 5 and really cause problems. When he hits shots, it's a bonus for us, and he's done that at a pretty decent clip this year. But again, one of the most consistent guys. I can look at the bench and know when Marquise or Shamar or Cole need a sub, our level is not going to go down when we sub QD in. And at times it might go up, right? Because that's just the type of kid he is. Never issues with him, always on time to everything, shows up, works his butt off, right? Has never complained about not starting, right? He came from Lincoln College, where that's how we got him. Coach McGee, my associate head coach, who's doing a phenomenal job and is great, and I love having him by my side. He coached Quillen at Lincoln last year, right? And he said his biggest mistake that he made was not starting Quillen earlier in the year because he just makes such an impact on the team for Lincoln last year and now for us. QD has become a leader as well, and has really been one of the glue pieces for us that have brought the guys together. So excited for him and the success that he's having. And he's another one that we get back next year. That will be fun to see his growth. But massive plays on the defensive end all year for us. And he started a couple games when Marquise was banged up a little bit, and to be honest, like, we did not play very well against Dominican, and QD won us that game, like, just by his effort and hit multiple big shots. So that's who he is. That's what he does. And we're excited to have QD in our program.
And then just one final question about kind of the returners collectively. We talked about Jordan Boyd and Jalen Boyd. You've also got Carl Polk Jr. and Adam Bulwa that were there last year as well. And again, I think that those guys have done a great job of accepting this whole transition. And again, I have no idea the internal workings of your team dynamics, but I just would think that, if you were part of an old culture and they lost more than they won a lot of those seasons, and now you got all these new guys coming in, and you have a new coach, and boy, you'd never know it from watching any of those guys play. I guess you have to give a ton of credit to the way that your returners have made this thing all go, right? Some of the other guys have eye-popping numbers, but those returners, like, you wouldn't be here without the guys that came back. Just talk one more time about that whole piece of this.
Yeah, they're right up there with Jalen and Jordan. I mean, Carl has had, and he would tell you, an up and down career here. Freshman year, I think he finished second for newcomer of the year in the CCIW.
Yeah.
Had an incredible freshman year. I think almost averaged a double-double as a freshman, which is unheard of in the CCIW. And then the last couple of years has had games where he's looked really good, and games where he's, he would tell you you didn't even know he was out there. So KP has been, his work ethic and his effort to be in the moment every day has just continued to grow. He makes big plays for us all the time. And again, when we're pressing, you need to have multiple guys, right? And I'll say this about Adam and Carl and Jordan: not many teams in Division III or at any level can switch 1 through 5, because you got to hide your 5-man, maybe slower feet. Jordan is a lead at it. Carl comes in and does it, and then you could throw Adam in there at the 4 or 5,
Right.
and he can guards for short periods of time too. So Carl has accepted his role. Another guy that could argue that he came back as a senior, wants to start, has accepted his role, has never complained, always brings the guys together, has been a very, very vocal leader. And Adam has just some of the best, or one of the best motors I've ever coached. He just plays really, really hard, makes winning plays all the time. And again, another guy that you could argue could start. But I think that's what makes our team special, is that we don't have much of a drop off to our bench. And they have bought into that role. And because of the way we play, most of those dudes are playing starters minutes a lot of the games anyway. So Carl, Adam, Jalen, Jordan, you're absolutely hit the nail on the head. We would not have the success we had if they just came in and had bad attitudes or didn't want to buy into what we do. Incredible jobs. And that speaks to who they are as young men, right? And I think we talk about it all the time. In life, things happen, right? And this obviously has worked out well so far for them. But they didn't control a coaching change. They didn't control the kind of system we were going to bring in. And they've just put their heads down and worked and embraced the new guys. And that's, like I said, I think you said you've been most impressed, and I've been most impressed with our guys. Not very many previous relationships at all, how they've really just bought into being a family. And we do a lot of stuff off the court together to kind of to bridge that, but they have just done an incredible job of having one goal, one mission, having nothing to lose and everything to prove. And they know that when we row together, it's going to be we're going to have a lot more success than when we try to do it individually. So yeah. Kudos to those returners. Can't speak highly enough of them.
It really comes across, even from a complete outsider that's just watching the games on video. That chemistry really does jump off the page when you watch your team. So you're 9-2. You have 5 left, and I should mention, Coach, like, are you aware of how close you are to being solo first? Like my guys tried to help you out in that game at Wheaton, and I don't know if you saw any video of the final seconds of that game at Wheaton College, but you're real close to being in solo first in the league, Coach. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, we're real close to being 5th in the league too. So we've won some close ones too. I did watch that game, and what an incredible game from start to finish. And I know your Titans didn't come out on the right end, but we'll leave it at that. But that was a great game. And yeah, we're 9-2, and we're excited about where we're at. The thing we keep talking about as a team is we're so close to the goals that we have set as a team that there's no time to take the foot off the gas, right? And you can go in this league, you can go from 9-2 to 9-7 real quick.
Yeah, because if you look at who you have left, Milliken at home, Milliken just beat North Central.
Yep.
You're at Carthage. Carthage beat you up pretty good at your place.
Yep.
At Elmhurst. Elmhurst is really good, obviously.
Yep.
You got Illinois Wesleyan coming in. That's going to be a tough game.
Yep.
And then you go to Rock Island, which is always tough. So you really do. I mean, it's a cliche, but you're in a game by game, one at a time, grindy mode here, aren't you, Coach?
Yeah. And that sounds like coach speak, but it's really not. Milliken is playing well and have changed a lot of what they're doing. And they have 2 freshmen that are balling right now and have hit big shots. And so we're excited for the opportunity to play them, but we snuck out of there with a 2-point win earlier in the year and did not shoot well. And so we have a lot to fix on our end. So excited for our opportunity to play them again. But yeah, it's game by game, day by day. We're not afraid to talk about our long-term goals, right? Some coaches are afraid to talk about that. We're not afraid. We said at the beginning of the year, we want to go win the CCIW, right? And so we're not afraid to talk about that. But then to get to that goal, you have to have mini goals, right? And so we talk about it all the time. It's this day for these 2 hours. What can we do to win, right? And that's all that matters. If you give everything you got for 2 hours and we get beat, we get beat. And that's happened this year, and it could happen again very, very easily. But we just believe that if we worry about us and do what we can do for 2 hours of just focusing on winning, not focusing on noise or votes or who we're playing, just play North Park basketball for 40 minutes, for 2 hours, just lock in, and nothing else matters. We think we'll end up where we want to be, and we're excited for the stretch run.
Just a couple more questions before I let you go. I know this is game week and you got a lot going on. The differences in the conference that you came from versus the CCIW, I know you came from a really good league. What are your impressions through your first season in the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, not good for your health, that's for sure. I can't, so many one possession games that we've played in and have won and have lost. Great coaches, they're always prepared and always throwing something new at you. You have to be, I think I said this in our last interview, but we tell our guys all the time, confidence comes from preparation, right? And so we have to be prepared for our group to feel confident and for us as a staff to feel confident, because we know everybody else in this league is going to be prepared to play us, and they are coming to beat us, right? So the league has been incredible. The coaches are very fun to compete against, and I'm very excited to continue to compete against them. It's different, I would say, from the NAC, and maybe obviously the NAC is massive with how many teams there are, and only having 9 in this league, and playing everybody twice. You didn't do that in the NAC because of so many teams, right? So you really get to know your opponents better. And I think, the top to bottom, this league is very, very deep, and you can really beat you on any night. The NAC is getting better and better, and there's some really, really good teams in there as well. So a little difference in just the number of teams and how well you get to know each other and how close all the games are. So yeah, I've really loved my time so far here, and excited to continue to finish it up.
Do you follow any of the national stuff in terms of like your resume, winning percentage, strength of schedule, regionally ranked opponents? Generally, those of us that follow this, like if you didn't win the Pool A bid, we think as we speak, we think that you'd get in as a Pool C, but if you dropped a couple, you're probably on the bad side of the bubble. Do you follow that stuff, or are you just trying to just win the games?
Yeah, we definitely follow that. Again, we're not afraid to talk about our goals. We want to play in the national tournament. We want to win the CCIW. So we're not afraid to talk. We as a staff follow it. I don't know how much our guys follow it. So we know, that there's pressure to win games, and you have to have a good schedule, and you have to beat good teams. And so thankfully in our league, you get those opportunities almost every night, right? You're playing something that's nationally recognized. So our non-con needs to be good, but you're going to get great games against most likely regional ranked opponents every year because of how good our league is. So we definitely are paying attention to that, and we know kind of where we stand as of right now. We also know that if, we don't take care of business, we can be standing on the outside looking in. And I think everybody's goal should be to go get the Pool A, so you don't have to worry about the Pool C. So that's kind of what we're focused on game by game. How can we make sure that we're in position to go win it and then go win the conference tournament? And we'd love to host the thing here in the Cracker Box, but we'll see. We got a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, that'd be a big advantage, being able to host as opposed to going. Last question just goes back to something we talked about on Hoopsville last night, and Ryan Scott asked me to bring this up, knowing that we were going to talk today. And he brought up the fact that when you played in college, you were a 3-year captain, and that is very rare. You and I talked about that the last time when we spoke in May. You were part of a transformation of a program that went from 5-25 when you were a freshman to 30-6 in the Elite 8 as a senior, and you were in a leadership role all along the way. And here you are at North Park in the process of very, very quickly turning a program around. There's something inherent here, Sean, that's, leadership wise. You were identified as a leader very early on. Your sophomore year of college, asked to be a captain. Obviously doing a great job leading young men this year. Is that just something that kind of came naturally to you? I mean, leadership, not everyone's good at that. Some people, in fact, are terrible at it. Is that something that's always been comfortable for you?
Yeah, I think, I'm a big faith guy, and I think God gives different gifts to different people, right? And I think I've always been a person that can relate to anybody, and that's a lot to do with my upbringing. We, grew up in Mount Greenwood, but we moved a lot and lived with different people groups and different people. And I grew up in a single parent household, but then we lived in LaGrange, which is a wealthier suburb, right? So God has really put me in positions in a lot of different areas to be able to relate to almost anybody, right? And so I think that was the big thing. Our team and Coach Boomer Roberts, who coached that team, really brought in people from all different areas of the country, and different social economic groups, different races. And so that was awesome to be a part of that. And I think one of the reasons I was pegged a leader there is because I was able to build relationships with everybody there. And I really think that's just a gift from God. I love meeting new people and talking with new people and just finding out their stories and listening and telling mine. Right. And so, yeah, I do think that has always become easier for me. And I think that time at Trinity where, my freshman year when we won 5 games and we're getting curb stomped by every team we played, that grew me a lot. Right. And then to be on the other end of having being on the best team in Trinity history, making the Elite Eight, winning 30 games, which is incredible, never happens, right? And not being the superstar, right? But being just a leader that played well, but I wasn't the guy. I wasn't the reason we were doing all that. But that has really prepared me for moments like this. This is why we had talked about bad jobs and things like why I played, and you even talked about in the last podcast about some people might have looked at North Park and said, no, I'll wait for another one. A place like North Park excited me because I saw Trinity was similar, right? Like worst NAI program in history, the year before. And then Coach Boomer comes in and just is, loves his guys, right? Talks about how important it is to be faithful fathers and loving husbands and how the game of basketball can really bring you together. And I saw similar opportunities here at North Park. Obviously, North Park has much better history than Trinity did. But obviously, it's no news to anybody. It had been a while. So I was very excited about that challenge. And obviously the challenge of bringing in 9 transfers and meshing them. That's something that excites me. I think we talked about this last time. I'm a competitor, right? So give me a challenge and let's see if we can figure it out. And so that's definitely part of my nature is being a people's person and trying to bring people from all different types of all over the world together. And that's something that thankfully this year with God's help, obviously we've had a lot of success in bringing them together. And credit to the guys too, because you can lead people, but if they don't want to follow, it doesn't really matter how good of a leader you are. So getting them to follow, and they've done a great job of buying into, the we over me culture that we're trying to build here.
Yeah, I mean, Division III every year is full of teams that were built. There's certainly programs that year after year are always good, but there's also year after year programs where a coach with a vision and a plan came in and turned it around for good. And so, it looks to me, it feels to me like North Park is on that path, and I hope you are. You guys have been really the kind of the story of the CCIW this season, so it's been fun to watch. Last question on my end, and then I'm going to kick it to you for any final thoughts. I got to know. Look, our White Sox last year, complete wasted season, embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing.
Yep.
Pitchers and catchers report. I mean, fairly soon. Can we make anything out of this great nucleus that we've had, or are we just gonna, what this away? Like, what's your take on the Sox this year, Coach?
No, I just actually was right before we got on, just got an ESPN report that we got an F for the offseason. We didn't do much to change. So
correct.
They are banking on the nucleus. So I hope so. White Sox have a lot of talent, but I know the Cubs spent a lot of money, and it's never good when the Cubs are good and the White Sox stink, because we've heard about that for our whole life.
I'm really worried that we're gonna have wasted this whole era, and we're gonna wake up and the Cubs are gonna be better than the Sox this year. And I just don't want to think about that. I had to ask you, just 2 Southsiders talking about the White Sox, because it's been a kind of a grind here in the last 12 months. But in all seriousness, Coach, really congrats on where you are at this point. And I know you're not done. There's a long way to go, but you've put yourself in position to play super meaningful games the rest of the way. Literally the rest of the way. You're playing huge games with, hey, look, it's not crazy to think you could put yourself in position to host the CCIW tournament and even to be a host in the NCAA tournament if things went the right way. So kudos to you. What final thoughts do you have for the North Park fans, the D3 fans, et cetera, checking out the QCast today?
Yeah, first I want to thank you, Bob, again for inviting me back. And you're a great advocate for not only Division III hoops, but also for our league. And so thank you for all you do. Thank you to the North Park fans so far. We've they've really come out in droves over the last couple of weeks and have got excited. And I've gotten so many emails and calls, just how excited they are to see the program having success. So very fun to have alumni back involved and fans coming back to the game. I think you said this last time. I think when we fill our gym here, it might be
not
the
easy.
best home court advantage in the league. And so they've done a great job of that. And yeah, we're very thankful. We actually just had this conversation yesterday. There's a lot of teams that, are just getting through the last 5 games, right? We're thankful and blessed to be playing in massive games, from here on out. Everyone matters. Everyone's a big deal. And that's a blessing. I've coached teams and I've been on teams where the last 5 is like, how quick can we get this over with so we can start fresh next year? We're a far ways from that. And we're excited about the opportunity to continue to compete and continue to build our family that we're building here. So thanks to you, Bob, for allowing an opportunity for our program to kind of talk about who we are and what we do, and appreciate all you do for our sport.
I'm glad to do it. And I'll know that you finally arrived when I see the cracker box full and I hear that thing from when I was 18 years old, that yo baby, yo baby, yo baby, yo chant. Like I just remember being in a packed cracker box year after year, and they had this yo baby yo chant. And I'm telling you, if you can get that thing back going, coach, you're not going to lose. So
Okay.
you ask some of the people
out.
there about
Yeah.
that thing, and if you can get that rolling and I hear that on a video stream, I'm just going to be like, oh, he's arrived. So
Okay. I'll have to ask Greg Sager about that. Maybe he can get the
he
crowd
knows
doing
all
that.
about it. And I'm telling you, yeah, like I have visions of like Mark Horner dunking with that chant going on after a timeout. So great to talk to you, Sean. Congrats again. We'll be watching the Vikings play. You're getting votes in the top 25 poll. I think you should be in. I'm trying to get some other voters to pay a little attention, because I think the Vikings are a no-brainer. Good luck to you, coach. And I really appreciate all this time again.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate you.